Today we're going to be executing 10 healthy Crockpot freezer meals. I have a dinner to go business, and this week I'm doing those freezer meals because next week I'll do freezer meals also, and then for an entire month I'm not going to be able to do anything because I have a daughter getting married. And so I'm going to go through these meals with you today, and I'll go through next week's meals too. Maybe something that you enjoy watching. It may be something that you would like to do. These come from the family freezer. You can just look up 10 healthy Crockpot freezer meals in 1 hour, although I doubt I will get it done in 1 hour because I'm doing it for more people than just me. But I think they'll all be good. I'll show you the recipes that we're going to be using. Crockpot sweet and sour pork chops, tomato basil chicken, Southwestern chicken chili, brown sugar bourbon chicken, honey lime chicken, ground turkey tacos, beef stew, pot roast, hamburger vegetable soup, and beef teriyaki. Now, because of the price point on the last two, they were only available to people ordering 5 or more meals because beef is much more expensive than pork or chicken. Pork is the cheapest of all of them, and then chicken comes in next. Pork's about $2 a pound. Chicken comes in next at about $3 a pound. Hamburger between $4 and $5 a pound, and then stew beef, of course, is about $6 a pound. So I didn't want somebody ordering just the beef dishes because that doesn't account for the cost I have to make up with the other dishes being a little less. So today, none of this utilizes homegrown ingredients. The sweet and sour pork chops utilizes my homegrown pork, but everything else is complete convenience food. It's all frozen vegetables and sauce packets, and then there are some fresh vegetables, carrots, snap peas, green beans. Everything's already packaged at the store though, because I am under a time crunch because of the wedding, and I just wanted to see how this would work out. Sometimes you don't have time to chop up all your vegetables, and sometimes you don't even have time or the means to grow your own vegetables. So all of this utilizes frozen vegetables, also lots of things like soup mixes, seasoning mixes that have already been prepared, canned tomatoes, pineapple, taco seasoning, things like that. I know a lot of you do your own seasonings, and that's fine. And I do my own seasonings from time to time. But there's also, I believe, a time in life where we have to utilize other ingredients and things that are more convenient so that we can save time. And that's where I am, because not only am I the mother of the bride, I am the wedding coordinator, the florist, and the caterer, because that's where we are. That's what we can afford. We set a budget for the wedding, and to stay within that budget, we had certain parameters, and I will start all those budget wedding videos very soon. But right now, let's just get started on what we've got to do. I'm going to set aside, I printed out all my recipes, and I'm going to set aside the pork chop recipe, even though it's the first one. I'm going to set that aside for now because I want to do all of my chicken recipes at once. Let's stick them together. Okay. So I want to do all my chicken recipes at once. So I'll set those recipes out, and then we'll get to working on those. I bought some good quality freezer bags, and everything is going into freezer bags. So I got out all my ingredients for my first chicken dish, and I want to keep everything chicken so that I can use the same cutting board for about 4 or 5 recipes before I need to wash it. So the first thing you'll need to do is get you some high quality freezer bags and write your instructions for cooking on the freezer bag. So right now, in the little white part, I'm just writing the size of the entree. It's a half, which in my world that feeds 4. And then I'm writing that it's tomato basil chicken. And underneath for the instructions, you either cook it on low for 4 to 6 hours, or you cook it on high for 3 to 4 hours. Now, I'll go back on my webpage and tell everybody that they should thaw it overnight in the refrigerator, or they can add 2 hours cooking time, whichever suits them. But I'm not going to write that on all the bags because that's the same for every recipe. So I'm going to write it once on the Facebook page, and that will suffice. So the first thing I like to do is get all of my ingredients out. Get my measuring cups, get my cutting board, get my knife, get my little scale. And just a tip for those of you who don't want to get your scale dirty, I just put a regular Ziploc bag over the top of my scale. So when I'm weighing my chicken, it doesn't get on my scale. That way it can't get down in the little cracks. I don't have to immerse my scale or worry about immersing it. I certainly wouldn't immerse it. But, you know, sometimes you have to do those things in order to get all of the chicken juice off. And so I just put that there so that we'll make sure that none of that chicken juice gets down in. I have a knife. I usually sharpen those before I go on camera, but today I can sharpen it with you. I just have a little Smith sharpener here. I go through the coarse sharpening of the blade 8 or 10 times, and then I'll go through the fine sharpening of the blade. There's nothing more frustrating in the kitchen than working with a dull knife, so I like to sharpen that right off. I have an Ergo Chef knife. It's really nice and balanced. I love it. I got it in New York when I went for my 17th wedding anniversary. That was my present from my husband to me, and so I really do treasure that knife. Okay, my recipe for tomato basil chicken for some reason didn't print out, and so I'm going to use just the one off of the internet. Now I'm going to do this recipe prep in several sections. If not, you would be sitting here watching me for an hour. And so we're going to go through about 2 recipes, and then I'll do a part 2. The chicken breasts that you get today from the grocery store are enormous. How I take care of that is I cut off the tenderloin. I either save that for a recipe and use all the tenderloins at once, or I save it and my family and I eat it later. And then if the chicken breast is really thick, which they almost always are, I take my knife and I go through it horizontally so that I come up with about 2 4-ounce breasts. Now in order to check that, I will put that on my scale, and I'll only do that a couple of times. Yeah, that's a 4.4 ounce. Here's the other one at 3 ounces, so that's going to have to go for another use. But I'll get the feel of what this looks like and what it feels like, and I won't have to weigh every one. But I like to give a 4-ounce portion of meat. I go by the USDA portions. So a 4-ounce portion of meat, half a cup of vegetables. Let's cut that little chicken oyster off there. That I like to save that for orange chicken for my family. And then this one looks like it's going to be 4 ounces easily for both. Yeah, that's a 4.5. And that's a 5 ounce. So basically I'll put that 5 ounce in there, and I'll also put that 3 ounce in there, and we have what we need for an entree of 4. So I'm going to do this once. Let me wash my hands right quick. see my chickens out in the yard. I have a few chickens that no matter what I do, they are going to get out. They cannot be contained. They are free spirits. And so I just let them roam. I've had two of those particular chickens for about 4 years. It's getting harder and harder for us to keep the animals that we have, but I'm trying to hold on. I just processed my mama pig, and she weighed in at 460 because she had been nursing piglets, and then we gave her a little time to recover from that and put on some weight. But I had to process her because we don't have the means or the time to pay for food that has tripled for the animals. And we don't have the time to take care of them in this season of our life. We're very busy. We've got 2 girls in college, one about to get married, and a son in high school. And it's just getting hard to take care of them. I don't want them neglected. So we went ahead and processed her. She'll be great meat for our family. We have cube steak just about every morning of our life from the pork cutlets. As I mentioned, I'm using some convenience ingredients today. And so I was just opening my tomato sauce. We need 5 ounces of spinach, which this is a 16-ounce bag. So it has about 3 big handfuls in it. That's about 5 ounces. You can certainly weigh that if you want to. I usually put all of my veg on bottom and my meat on top. That way when you go to dump it into the crock pot, your meat comes out relatively first and it can be on the bottom of the crock pot. I need the baby spinach. I need a can of tomato sauce, and I'm one of those people who has to get every drop out of the can. So I'll grab a little spatula here. Get every drop of that goodness out of the can. Alright. I need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm just going to eyeball that. 1, 2. 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, which I am going to measure, because unlike olive oil, if you get too much acid in something, you're really going to know it. Let's see, I'm halving this recipe, so I already have 1 too many olive oils. 1 tablespoon too many olive oil, but I'm definitely not going to make that mistake with the vinegar. And then this recipe called for tomato garlic basil seasoning. This is a McCormick product. I've never used it. Smells delicious. But of course my local Walmart only had 1. So I also picked up some sun-dried tomato dressing to use in my extra entrees that I'm making, and I'll put like a tablespoon of basil in with that. I've cooked long enough to know how to make something work. And so here is my tomato basil seasoning for the marinade. And then I can put my chicken breasts right on top of that. When that cooks up, here's a small rib bone. That won't be good for anyone. When that cooks up in the crock pot, it will be so delicious and flavorful. Even that spinach will turn into a silky kind of sauce for the chicken. You see why you want to do all your chicken entrees at once. If I wasn't doing this just for the camera, I would do all of those, set them all out, then wash my hands, then seal the bag, just to save time. But I'm going to do one at a time for you guys, because nobody wants to watch me do all of that over and over and over. So that's what your bag looks like. You've got it labeled, you've got your instructions on there, you've got your lovely tomato basil chicken. When I put these in my own freezer, I lay them flat and smush them out as flat as I can so I can stack them in the freezer, and that really works out well. So recipe number 1, done. Okay, to assemble our next recipe, which is Crockpot Southwestern chicken chili with peppers and corn. We are going to have all of our chicken in first. I know I said I like to put it on top so it ends up bottom in the crock pot. But also, I've discovered when you do that, you don't get the marinade just on the meat or mostly on the meat. And so I'm going to switch it up a little bit for this one. The marinade is a white chicken seasoning, white chicken chili seasoning. You can make your own seasoning, of course, if you want to. A pound of chicken, which turns out each of the breasts that I bought are about a pound. Now, can you believe that? The USDA says that we should have 4 ounces of meat, and 1 chicken breast weighs 16 ounces. Now, that to me is crazy, because most people would think that 1 chicken breast is a serving. You guys say, well, it's just chicken. Well, it's not just chicken. Nowadays, it's injected with a saltwater solution. I have even seen some chicken that says it's injected with a saltwater and sugar solution. So you're not just getting chicken, you're getting a lot more than that. Plus you're getting everything that chicken ate, but we won't go into that now. So I put my Southwestern seasoning right down in on my chicken because this is going to be a soup. So it doesn't really matter if the chicken ends up on the bottom of the crock pot. Now each of these is going to get some vegetables. I noticed that I have left my peppers and onions in the freezer. So let me go get those right quick. Hi. Go away. Okie doke. One of the many animals that we've had over the years. We've always got to have a bird. I'm going to get a new knife because I don't want to wash my chicken knife in between. So each one of these is supposed to feed 6 people. I have some that need to feed 4 people, so I'm having to do a little math in my head. We need 3 overflowing cups. Well, first of all, let's see. This is a 22 ounce and I'm supposed to be using a 16 ounce. So I need 3 overflowing cups for the, let's see, 1 2/3 times 2. That would be 2 4/3, which makes 3 1/3. So 3 overflowing cups of frozen peppers and onions in the one that feeds 6. And then I'm just going to put about 2 1/2 cups in the others. But we'll wait and do those off camera because I don't have enough to talk about to fill all that time. And what I wanted to do, what I said I was going to do, is go ahead and put my liquid ingredients down next to the chicken so that I could smoosh it all up with the marinade. That's a can of black beans and a can of tomatoes. You can use the tomatoes with green peppers and onions if you want to. I happen to have a few of those in my cabinet, so I didn't buy any tomatoes. I knew I could make up for it with those. Let's see, we've got to have 1/2 bag of frozen yellow corn, which is 1 2/3 cups. So I'm going to give a good cup there and a 2/3 cup. Very good. So I've got my peppers in, I've got my corn, I've got my black beans, I've got my tomatoes, my chicken chili, my chicken breast, and then the people who have bought this will add 2 cups of water the day that they cook it. So that is second recipe. How beautiful that is. Second recipe done for white chicken chili. They're going to add 2 cups of water on the day that they cook it, on low for 4 to 6 hours, high for 3 to 4 hours, and then they need to shred their chicken, stir, and eat. So that's part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Hope your day is as good as mine.